Welcome, everybody. So today we're going to be asking the question that keeps IT leaders up at night. No, not why does VPN always break at 4 p.m., but is this AI actually doing anything measurable? I'm Rob, and with me is Saurabh. He's the CEO and co-founder of Rezolve.ai, which means he gets to take the credit for the wins and the angry emails if this goes completely off the rails. We're not here to talk theory. We're here to talk outcomes that matter, the kind that might get you promoted, KPIs that prove it so that your CFO finally smiles, and Desk IQ, which I like to call our Moneyball for IT, because it shows you exactly where the wins are hiring. But before we jump in, Saurabh, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, thanks for having me, Rob. My name is Saurabh Kumar. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Rezolve.ai. And before I started Rezolve, I was actually on the enterprise side implementing a lot of technology and automation and data science and AI, and had a lot of opportunity to work on internal corporate business cases, work with the finance team to present those cases, get the exec buy-in into those budgets. I do understand this both as a buyer and as a seller, and I'm happy to share how we can all focus on outcomes and drive key measurable results for the business as we think and implement AI.
So let's get honest here. Nobody wakes up and says, my dream, well, you did actually, my dream is to deploy AI. They wake up and say, please, for the love of all that is holy, let my team stop drowning in tickets. So Saurabh, when companies roll out Rezolve.ai, what are the top 3 things they're secretly hoping will happen in the first 90 days?
Yeah, let's maybe back up a little and talk maybe not just about Resolve, but what does a service manager or an IT team needs at large, right? And I used to run IT support organizations in my prior life, so I speak kind of with that hat on. When you think about the value chain of how support gets done, the first thing you really care about is your employees' experience or people who are looking for that support, right? So it's really important to deliver something that people are happy with the service, right? Otherwise, they're going to have that experience and they're going to tell all of their coworkers and their boss that, hey, I interacted with IT support and it's just not that great, right? So you want that experience to be awesome, right? That's kind of the table stake. The next thing you do deal with is how do you keep the costs manageable? Because at the end of the day, things like support are really a cost driver inside the organization. They don't usually drive top line. They're usually the less you spend, the better your bottom line is generally what every CFO wants to see. And to that extent, as a service manager, you really want to focus on keeping your costs under control. And that's the second outcome that most clients will want to see. And then the third outcome is really what does it do for the organization at large, right? Does it improve the productivity of the agents? Does it drive, more self-service? Does it drive better adoption of technology, right? So there's a lot of next level things that come out if you get the first 2 things going. And that is really how I think about the journey of when we at Rezolve, when we work with clients and we try to deliver outcomes, it is really about driving these things. It's driving the success of the employees and them being satisfied with the service. It's looking at how we reduce the volume of tickets that are really the core driver of costs. And then it is really driving that next level metric around adoption and so on and so forth.
So take us through the timeline, week 2, month 1, month 3. When do the light bulb moments usually hit? And after that, what's the most surprising outcome that you've seen? Something like nobody planned to be turned into this huge win.
Yeah. So I think the success, let's think about how we define success, right? In a traditional project, success was really defined in IT as, hey, the project went live and we delivered the scope that we want, right?
Yeah.
AI is not like that. AI is a living, breathing system. You really have to think about success as something that you measure and improve over time. So success really looks at, is the platform being used? What does the adoption look like? Is it delivering the value that we talked about? Is it deflecting tickets? Are we really measurably getting less tickets than we were getting before? Is it really improving satisfaction? How do CSAT scores look like, right? Is it really driving those things? Now, these things take time. Adoption doesn't happen overnight. CSAT takes time to measure. Deflection, you will continuously iterate and improve. So these things happen over a period of time, and you need to really look at them as a time series. But you can begin to see the early shoots of each one of these things within the first couple of weeks of going live. You will get maybe not large masses of data, but you can get survey results from your early adopters saying, hey, I used it and I liked it, right? You can view the usage metrics and see if people were able to successfully complete the task that they were at. You can begin to see thumbs up, thumbs down type metric to see did it hit satisfaction. We also obviously do a lot of implied metrics. So for example, sentiment of the user, you can begin to see compared to the baseline that existed before we went in, has the sentiment improved at large, right? These are the early shoots. These are the canary, that you can begin to keep an eye on and see how your kind of success begins to build upon these.
So let's talk numbers, because good vibes don't balance budgets. Give me some realistic ranges. What does improvement look like in Q1, and where should things be by the end of the first year?
Yeah, I think great question. So I think there's really two ways to think about it. It really is a range, all right? For most companies, I see these kind of hyperbolic claims around, hey, we'll eliminate 100% of your tickets or whatever. It really doesn't work like that in real life. Real life, most clients have their own unique context. They have their own unique systems. They're in a specific industry. They have a different kind of workforce, right? All of these factors really drive the outcomes people really expect to see. So we really set a very realistic target with clients on what we're together trying to achieve. And for most clients, a range would be 40 to 70% reduction in their overall volume of ticket over a period of time. Now, how quickly we can get to 40 and how fast we can get to 70, it really is driven by a lot of factors. For example, the two, I would say, big factors that drive it are adoption of the platform. That really depends on how aggressively we collectively communicate about it and how we shift and nudge policies to change it. So, maybe we change it so that all service requests have to be raised through this platform, and that drives almost 100% adoption very quickly. We can also use behavioral nudges to change how adoption happens. So maybe reminding people that their password is expiring, or giving them information on a learning that they might have missed, or giving them information about a contractor on their team that needs to be extended, right? You begin to proactively reach out to the users and begin to shift their behavior, all of which drives adoption. And then the second metric is how much can you deflect, and that is really again where you have to go in with a very well-defined point of view. I know we're going to talk about Desk IQ in a few minutes. It's kind of our Moneyball into what a client needs to implement to know ahead of time. Here's how we're going to game plan how we deflect and get to those numbers.
All right. So before we dive into Desk IQ, and this is just plain for fun, and it's just between us. Come on. What is the most overrated metric in IT? The one that sounds impressive but tells you like literally nothing.
Yeah. So the most overrated metric in the entirety of the service industry are what I would call the backward-looking set of metrics, which is pretty much all the metrics that we track in service industry today. So if you think about the metrics we track are first call resolution, mean time to respond, right? Those are the two most oftenly used metric. And they are so gamed in how they're measured sometime that they almost become pointless. So I'll take a first call resolution as a metric, right?
Excellent. So let's now dig into the. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I was just saying, first call resolution is like you can define what a first call is in a way that metric always looks healthy.
Sounds really, really good.
And yeah, exactly. When you control that definition, you've already won, right? So it is really, some of these metrics are, is it a call that comes in multiple times over a long period of time or a short period of time, or so on, right? And really, I think there's an opportunity to re-examine, and hopefully you and I will get to talk about it, is how do we change these matrices to be more deeper and more forward-looking rather than shallow and backward-looking.
So let's dig into this idea of Desk IQ. For people hearing that term for the first time, what exactly does it do? And walk us through those first 30 days. I mean, what are you going to do? Grab my ticket data? What happens next?
Yeah, so desk IQ is what it says it is. It's IQ about your desk, right? Dumb as that sounds. Um, no. I mean it in the most loving way. We came up with
Yes.
the idea of it, but it's intended to communicate a very simple intent, which is you run a service desk, and
Yes.
we're giving you insights and intelligence about your service desk, right? That is really the purpose of the platform. What it does, what we do with Desk IQ is we take a client's prior service data. So you may be running, let's say, another ITSM platform, or you might be running in just over emails in Excel or live chat, right? You take all of these records of prior service interactions, your prior tickets, incidents requests, your live chat transcripts, your things like that, and we feed this into our Desk IQ platform, which is really a cutting edge agentic platform that analyzes each one of those tickets and rates it on a lot of different parameters, including the potential for automation using perhaps better knowledge, perhaps an integration into another system, perhaps a new workflow or a form. And it helps us determine, it categorizes all of those interactions into what it thinks are logical categories. It comes up with a point of view on how much can we automate within each one of those categories. So perhaps something like password resets, you can automate nearly 100%, whereas something like hard drive failures or laptop failures, you perhaps can automate very little just based on the nature of it, right? So Desk IQ gives this point of view ahead of time. And then what's cool is it goes even further. It actually recommends the specific workflows and the specific knowledge that we need to build to deliver that outcome. So effectively, even before we have implemented a single piece of the platform, we can give a client a very clear point of view into, hey, if we were to work together, here is how we get you to that 50% ticket deflection. Here's the 20 categories of tickets you're getting today. Here's how much we think we can automate within each one of them. Here's how much of that automation is going to come from knowledge-based automation. Here's how much of that's going to come from automation or integration or task or workflows. And here's what we suggest as a starting point, right, for all of those. And I think it's a great proof point in how we can assure people that we're going to get to the outcomes we need to get to.
So what's like the first chart or insight that like literally makes somebody sit up in their chair? Like, what do they see that like really grabs their attention?
You know, the funniest thing is the thing that every single service platform has ever had is categorization, right?
Okay.
So you have categories and subcategories for any ticket that you get. And 99.9% of the time, those are almost always mischaracterized. So people just put whatever's the path of least resistance as a ticket category and subcategory when it comes in. So the fact that AI now goes and looks at the actual detail of the ticket and properly categorizes it as if a human was reading and categorizing it is, forgetting all of the ROI and the automation and the outcome, just being able to have a clean, high confidence view into what is it that your team's spending time on is a really great first aha for most clients when they see the report. Obviously, then they get to dig into each one of them and see what are some examples of tickets and what are the subcategories within each and how are we going to automate those, right? That's kind of the next level.
So I was actually on a discovery call earlier today, and one of their biggest pain points was categorization, believe it or not. So
yeah, no, if you and I were getting some money for every time we've heard that problem, we'll both be not needing to do this podcast.
Fair, super fair. So let me get this right. This is not AI saying, trust me, I'm working. It's AI saying, here's the exact breakdown of where you saved time and money. And that pretty much feels
for sure. So the AI is linking all the way from here's your top level categories, here's how many tickets are in each one of those categories, to here is are the subcategories within each one of them. Here's what's happening in those subcategories. Here's like 4 or 5 examples that you can double click and see. And then here's how we recommend we solve for them. And here's the ROI for if we solve for them, right? It's connecting the details of the ticket to how you can actually draw the line into actually deflecting those tickets or money being saved for the organization. It's very, 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 very clear.
So tell me an ROI story. Share a favorite example. You don't have to give any names of the companies. You know, there's NDAs and everything else out there, but tell us about the outcomes. what changed for them? How fast did they see it? And what was the exact KPI that told you and them beyond a doubt that this was truly a successful and something that they needed to have evaluated within their service desk?
Yeah, no, I mean, I will say this is, we're working on a new section of the site where we'll publish some of these new sets of customer stories, but I'm
Cool.
so awestruck by, the feedback that comes in from the clients. There's a client that we were recently working to do a business review with. They got a 90% plus client satisfaction, right? This is unheard of in the IT support industry. If you work in an IT support environment, most people just hate that interaction, right? For my password's logged out and I have to call on the phone, and that is obviously driven from the fact that it's now faster, it's easier, it's omni-channel. You can do it on Teams, you can do it on the phone, right? All of these things drive satisfaction. So to get to 90% plus satisfaction was, you've been in the industry really is tear-inducing for tears of joys, if I may say. The other metric that, another client, they had 9 out of 10 times the system was giving the users what they needed. And they said, hey, this solved my need. And now that's a very, very high bar for people to get to, right? Like 90% of what the users were looking for was getting responded to by AI. So we're seeing these types of numbers often and frequently and across the client base, and that is really a testament to starting it the right way, which is having a clear point of view into how are we going to deliver these outcomes for people. And if I can add another point to what you and I were talking about a minute early, which is what were some of the metrics that I don't like, right? And we talked about a couple of those. Just to delve into what are some of the metrics that I think I do like, and what I wish we would all begin to move to is these types of metrics that measure satisfaction and outcomes. But also, there's a new class of what I call predictive metrics that are now being made possible by AI. And what they're doing is, if you were just looking at first call resolution or time to resolution, that time has passed, right? It's like last month's data. I can't go back and fix it. People who had that bad interaction are going to be unhappy about it, right? What if we could use AI to decide real time which ticket needs to be escalated before it's breached an SLA, based on maybe it's a very complex ticket that in the past similar tickets have taken time, or we could detect that this user has had persistent issues. So there's so much opportunity to intervene and change these metrics by proactively, maybe proactively routing something to the right person, proactively escalating before something becomes an issue. Always be monitoring for an opportunity to prevent something from breaching a service level or having a negative impact. And that, to me, is the future of metric in our business, right? It's not about reporting what happened a month ago. It's about responding in the moment to what's happening now.
So we've talked about outcomes, we've talked KPIs, and we've talked about how data can shine a light on ROI instead of leaving it to gut feel. So if someone listening today and wants to start making their AI measurable, what's the simplest first step they can take tomorrow?
Yeah, I would say if you're in the service space, start with something like Desk IQ. Right? So start with something like Desk IQ, which is really about getting a measurable insight into how you're going to change your service even before you've started to work on changing it, right? So that upfront view helps, whether it's us doing Desk IQ or you doing something similar on your own. I think it's a great place to start. If you're doing something outside the service industry and you're doing generally some other type of AI implementation, be very clear in what are the 2 or 3 things that you're trying to change. And don't over-engineer it. What's the easiest way to measure that change, right? It could be as simple as just asking people, hey, is this better than whatever you were doing before? But if you define that measurement ahead of time, then the entire program aligns to that outcome, rather than saying, hey, I've now delivered a project and I'm going to figure out how to measure the success of the project like once it's all done. That doesn't really work well.
Well, perfect. Saurabh, thanks again for walking us through this. And to everybody tuning in, may your tickets be few, your MTTR short, and your dashboards full of those lovely little green arrows that are pointing up. Thanks for joining.